In early July, this river had dropped from peak snowpack and rainy season runoff. We came upon a mid-river logjam to find 5 or 6 cutthroat trout that used this pocket as refuge from the push of high water. We fished this pocket again 2 weeks later, and there were no fish in the bucket. Lowering flows pushed the fish to deeper pools. The sun was bright and trout shy when we arrived, but as a cloud bank came over, the light dimmed and the trout really became active. On this day, there might have been 4 or 5 rises to a few mayflies in the hour I fished this pocket. It was obvious I would have to catch these trout on nymphs. The water was crystal clear, so I went at them with a 14-foot leader down to 4x to the dries and droppers. In Alberta, we're allowed 3 flies, so I left the stimulator on as the indicator and went 2 to 4 feet down with pheasant tail and hare's ear nymphs, as well as a caddis pupa. It was a fun game of sighting and trying to detect the most subtle of nymph eats by watching the white of each trout's mouth opening and closing on my nymphs. So yeah, anyway, having a lot of fun because basically I'm kind of sight-nymphing to these guys. Water's really clear, there's no wind on the surface, so we're able to see them coming into the zone. And a nice fish, that big fish, kept kind of patrolling, to be honest with you, the whole pool, and he'd be chasing the other smaller fish out, and then he'd come back in and cycle. And again, like I said, it's all about a timing thing. It's about getting the drift. But I tried a number of drifts with the caddis pupa, and just he wasn't coming up. He was really patrolling the bottom. So I said, okay, let's just go heavy. And I've put on quite a large, extra large pheasant tail nymph, and just said, okay, let's go down.
Yeah, and it also has about 8-10 lead wraps.
I was going to say wraps of wire here. So anyway, it got down, and again, drift comes in, and he was coming down. The nice thing this time, though, I mean, this is a big fly anyway, so I have a much better chance, but he wasn't coming right at me on the take. There was a bit more of a turn to it, and again, I wasn't really clear on seeing the white of the mouth, and you aren't always, but sometimes it's just instinct. You go, hey, you know he's coming to look, and you see a bit of a turn, and in that moment I set the hook and he was there, and that's, I knew, there's a way where you just know. And so yeah, wow, a lot of fun in this pool.
doopy doop boom boy dum bidum bidum doopy doop boom bidum ben dum doopy doop boom boy dum bidum bidum doopy doop boom bidum ben dum.
So that was a lot of fun. We're at this cutthroat trout pool, and there's 4 cuts that are actually cycling this big deep pool. And it's really all about actually getting a drift in and getting the timing, because they're not coming up for dries at all. And so I'm going really deep. I'm going actually about 3 feet deep with my nymphs, and I've got 2 nymphs. We are allowed 3 flies. So I got a dry down a couple feet to one heavier tungsten bead-headed nymph, kind of a stonefly pattern, and then another 1.5 foot down to actually a little caddis pupa, and it's also tungsten. But the cool thing is that the first fish, actually, I got a good drift. I'm going, yeah, it's going in there, and there's a back eddy. So I'm kind of casting actually closer to me and letting it drift into him, because he's just cycling the sand here. And it's coming up, and I see it chomp, and Dave goes, yeah, double chomped. Well, there is no way I could set, because I was pulling the fly right out of its mouth.
Because it's coming right at you.
Yeah, it was coming right at me. So, okay, that's fair. But the cool thing is that there's another fish that decided to kind of drop almost to the tail out, to a shallower bit, and I was able to lead it by about 4 feet, and that gave a chance for my nymphs to get down, and you just slowly start to see him come up, and you're going, yeah, he's coming to take a look. And then I saw him, the white of the mouth, that's what I'm looking for. I saw that, open, close, set the hook, and got him. Beautiful, beautiful cutthroat. Lovely, lovely color on him, and just a pretty fish. Really enjoyed the moment.
3 more cruising around, plus the one on the head drop off.
Yeah, so I might still have a chance at another. Who knows?
And the clouds are coming in, so maybe that'll...
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that'll get them looking up a bit more.
Yeah, who knows, eh?
Wicked, man.
So yeah, this is an interesting one, because this particular cutthroat is basically cycling up and down about a 6-foot window, really tight to that log. Sometimes he goes right underneath it. And we have a couple sticks, like thinner kind of brown sticks, that come out, and he comes kind of up to one of them. We decided to call it Piggly Wigglies, because they're just these little pig sticks, I guess. I don't know. Dave started calling it Piggly Wigglies.
I would never name something
nothing
Piggly
crazy
Wiggly.
like that. Anyway, and that's kind of the target zone, because he likes to hold in behind them, as well as coming up above them. Anyway, so I'm getting some casts. I got hung up. Actually, I've still got a dry and a dropper hung up over some of the overhanging sticks.
We should be able to do the tightrope on that log after and get them, though.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But sure enough, I finally get a cast when he decides to just come my side of the Piggly Wigglies. And I got a cast, first one no good. Then I put it right back in there, and it was right above him. And I could see he came up, and I saw the white of the mouth, set the hook with the nymph, and it just didn't stick. But I definitely had him take, which
It took
cool.
a lot, eh? Probably
It did. It
half
took a
an
lot
hour
of
on that
patience,
fish.
actually, of just, because he'd go under that log, and you can't, I wasn't going to entice him out, because he wasn't coming to eat the dries. He was occasionally rising, but he wasn't coming to eat my dry. It's not like he, you know, because I put it through that zone. And the higher up you go, and that's the dynamics of water, is the higher up I went, the current actually pushes me away from the log.
Bunch of little deflections.
It was a real tight spot that I had to get the cast into. And yeah, hey, I mean, you know, you don't always set and you get the hook on or you get the fish on and fight it. But I knew I had him briefly, and then he popped off. So.
Well, maybe rest him another 5, see if he comes and cycles through and eats again.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just absolutely crushed something on the surface. Maybe a mayfly.
Mm-hmm. I could try a mayfly first.
Yeah, you could do that. Maybe a mayfly murder or something. He's not sitting there right now. He dropped down after smashing. See, he's just, oh, there's another fish going along the log there.
Yeah. That fish that was holding in the top drop off there decided to drop down, and he decided to come right into this sort of heart of the pool here. And I see him coming along. There's kind of a weed patch almost, if you will, or a collection of dead sticks on the bottom, which is the dark patch, and then there's all the sand around it, and you just see him coming in through the sand. And I was able to cast out I actually have Reese's beetle on now with a dropper nymph, but believe it or not, it was my large pheasant tail that actually got that fish again. But I just seen him coming, cruising along it, and had my cast. I led him again, and he just came up, turned, and took, and what a fish. Probably I would call him the biggest cut of this pool. There was a big one the whole time that we were here, and there was 4 or 5 that were cycling, and there was one that was really chasing the others around, and that was him.
It was pretty cool, hey, because you could actually physically watch him drop off that shelf, chase another fish, and then just decide to come and station over here, hey?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he had been chasing other fish, and then he decided to just kind of come and station on the sand, and that's when I was able to just kind of get the cast in there and let that nymph just drift in. And yeah, he came up, and I saw that mouth eat, and
totally had me
so
fooled though, because it was like, because when he ate something, I thought it was too tight. I thought it was too tight to shore, and I was like, I got it, but I'm going, what's she setting on?
Right.
It totally had me completely fooled.
Yeah. Yep. Isn't that neat though? But when you know, as the angler, I mean, the photographer, you're doing your thing, or the videographer, and I'm doing my thing, and I knew I had him on, and yeah, what a beautiful fish.
Eh?
Beautiful fish.
That was amazing.
It was incredible. I
Like-
just,
like-
no.
Oh no, you gotta reach. Screwed by a stick, maybe?
Yeah. Whoa. Just don't have on.
In the peck? Yeah, well, it's such a slashing
He
rise.
just absolutely hammered that race's beetle, which I was not expecting because I have 2 nymphs below it and every fish has been on the nymph.
Well, it was
So-
pretty amazing because you just let that fish go and
Yeah.
this thing rose and you're about to change everything to
Yeah.
go to an Adams, hey?
Well, exactly. I was just doing that.
That's awesome.
Crazy, man. Well, that was just so much fun. I mean, here I was just trying to set up actually with a tiny little Adams because this smaller fish that we have been seeing was starting to be pretty active on top and just taking the odd mayfly, obviously. And so yeah, I'm trying to tie that on and Dave goes, "Hey, do you still have your old setup on?" Because I just started to go for my pack and my fly box. And I said, "Well, yeah, I just taken it off, so I'll just throw it back on again." So I put the beetle with 2 nymphs below it back on, and first cast out there, and this fish just comes bolting up at it. And yeah, I mean, it was actually, turned out it was fouled in its peck fin, but
Well,
such
'cause
a
he came
small little
150
head on a
pounds an hour.
female cut and a fat cut, and so yeah, it hooked him in the peck fin. But a lot of fun in this pool. I mean, sometimes you come across pools on a cutthroat trout river where you've got a decent number of fish, and honestly it's really fun to take the time to work those fish, even if they're only going to come to nymphs sometimes, and that's just what it is. You know, they're not always going to be eager cuts on dries, but you can have a whale of a time if you really, you know, you get in a place where you can see the fish. We have perfect height here, especially when you can get height above them and you can see them, and you can just lead the fish, and you know your nymphs are starting to drop in the water column, and they just come along and you see the white of the mouth and set the hook, and it's a lot of fun.
After the last fish was caught, it was getting obvious that I'd either caught or hooked each of the 5 or 6 cutthroat in the run at least once each. I got a few refusals and decided to step down both tippet and fly size. I managed to get a few more takes on size 20 pheasant tails on 5X, but the takes were far more gentle. Still, it was neat to watch the whites of their mouths as they ate. Eventually, as usually happens in a bucket of cutthroat trout, they started to get on edge and chase each other around before grouping together in the bottom of the bucket. A clear sign they'd turned off. It was fun dissecting this pocket, something that if you take the time to do, you can have an hour or 2 of fun on your home water.